Hi, this is Bill Raymond, and in this long but necessarily long video, I'm going to show you how to set up multiple blogs and multiple blog feeds in Jekyll. Let's get started. As a business consultant, I spend a lot of time helping organizations improve their process. And right now, a lot of agile transformation is happening. So I've been learning a lot about implementing agile frameworks in organizations. And not necessarily just with software developers. I'm talking about HR, marketing, those types of groups. Now, of course, I'm also working with technical people, and that's where I'm learning a lot. For example, I'm not a developer. What I like to call myself an occasional developer. So I will dig deep into DevOps for a while and learn that. I'll dig deep into Git or GitHub and learn that. And then I share that information with others. But what I share and how I share is a little bit different. For example, for my purely business audience, I have a podcast, the website with the blog, and a newsletter. For my technical audience, I'm doing deep dive videos like this one that you're watching that I'm posting on YouTube. But I also want a blog and a website for that. So what are my options using Jekyll? One option is to have a single blog, and all of the various posts are mixed and mingled. So one day I'm here talking about business transformation, and another day I'm here talking about how to update a Jekyll blog's newsfeed. There's two different audiences there, but I could just point everyone to that one blog. Now I could categorize things or tag things so that I can say, well, this is a business post or a technical post. But if you're familiar with getting updates through RSS feeds or an RSS feed automatically updating a newsletter or posting to LinkedIn, you know that it's a little bit more difficult to just use categories and tags. So the single blog issue that I have is that the feed will show all posts. The business logic needed for integrations, like with email, like MailChimp, for example, that's going to be more difficult. And I'm always going to have to create these filters to filter out business and technical posts. And I really don't like the idea of these very different posts being in the same feed. So my next option is to just create two different websites. I could create two Jekyll websites, and which would essentially be two GitHub pages repos. Now, here is where I could have one website that's designed just for my business community and another website just designed for my technical community. But at the end of the day, I do not want to dilute my brand or cause user confusion by having people go to two completely different sites that might even look different. I also don't want to have to maintain multiple sites, and imagine I have to do analytics across these sites. That's going to even be more painful. So this is not a good option for me. So number 3 is I want to have two blogs, one website. And this is ultimately the option that I went with. But let me just kind of walk through this with you. I want to have cambermass.com/biz or business blog or whatever you want to call it, and have all my posts there. And then I want another URL specific to my tech blogging. Now, here's some of the negative parts of this, is I am going to have to customize Jekyll. I'm going to have to kind of roll my own Atom or RSS feed. And I also need to make sure that I don't step on unsupported features that GitHub Pages does not offer. So Jekyll has a lot of capabilities that aren't necessarily supported in GitHub Pages. So I have to traverse that carefully. However, I'm going to have one website. It's going to be easier to maintain. The content is similar throughout, and it allows me to build my brand with both my business and technical audience. So that's what I'm going to focus on for the remainder of this video. I'm going to show you how to have one website with multiple blogs. In my case, I'm going to have two. Before we do anything, we're going to be making a lot of changes here to our site. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new branch. So I'm using the Mac version of Visual Studio Code. I'm going to do a Command-Shift-P, create branch, and I'll call this multi-blog blog. Enter. There, and I can see that multi-blog is down listed here at the bottom of the screen. So now I know I'm working in there. So let's just go ahead and run our site. So I'll just type bundle exec Jekyll serve -- live reload. So I'll go over here and click on the site so we can get that loaded. This is the site that we set up in the previous videos. So if you aren't sure how to get yourself to this point, go back and watch those videos first. All right, cool. So what you get by default when you create a new Jekyll site is a post. And it's just titled Welcome to Jekyll. I can click in here and it's just kind of giving you some tips on how to use Jekyll when you're creating your posts. Now, if I go in here to the posts folder, the _post folder, you can see there's that post right there. And I can add as many as I want. And as a matter of fact, we've talked about that in previous videos. However, I would like to create my own area just for my business blog. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this post just so it's easy for me to reuse it. And I'm going to create a new root folder here. And I'll call this blog-business. I'm using blog-business because there's going to be a blog-tech. That way that they're kind of just organized alphabetically. So there's that blog-business. And in that folder, I'm just going to paste a copy of that original Jekyll blog. I'll rename it, use the date, and I'll call this my first biz blog, all with dashes. And I'll also come in here and change the title to my first business blog. And we'll just go ahead and tell that it's 2020 and so 01 21, there we go. And I'll get rid of this stuff here. Anyone that's watching my videos should know by now that when I'm trying to type and talk at the same time, I don't do the best job. Okay, I'll just remove all of this text here and I'll just say, welcome to my first business blog, and save that. Now, Jekyll's rebuilding here, and I would hope to see this new post show up on the list, but it's not. Well, why is that? Well, it's not because this _post folder is the only place you can put a post. You can actually put a post anywhere you want. The real problem is that you need to use the _posts file name or folder name for any of your posts. So let's come in here to blog business and create a subfolder called _posts. And now I'm just going to take this blog post and move it up into the folder. Before I do that, what I want you to do is pay attention to this area on the right hand side where it only says welcome to Jekyll right now. I'll go ahead and lift this up and put it under posts, move it, and Jekyll will rebuild, and now we'll see my first blog post. So you can see just by using the _posts folder name, you'll actually be able to see any posts on the site. And I'll go ahead and click on that, and you can see there's that welcome to my first business blog. So that's all good. We are getting to a point where we have a secondary blog, although there's a few more things that we need to do here. First of all, I want to categorize my blog so that I can say this one's for business and this one's for tech. So I'm going to go ahead and just change the category here to business. And I'll save this. And nothing really is going to happen here. You'll notice that the page didn't change. However, and I'm actually going to go from categories to category and save that. This will come in handy later because we're going to use this as a way to filter out any of the other posts that are tech related, for example. Now, there's a few other things I want to do in this business blog folder. First, I want to create an assets folder. And under that assets folder, I want to put images. And so I just want my blog to be self-contained. I'm going to collapse it for a moment. Notice above blog business, there's an assets folder. This is like where the main CSS file gets configured, and there's an images folder. This is where my logo is for my company site. So this is all kind of site related. So anytime I create a new blog post, what I really want to do is have it all self-contained underneath blog business. So I'm creating my own assets folder and my own images folder so that all of that kind of gets stored in one nice location. Now the other thing I might want to do is have a link up here on the top right hand corner of the website that says like business blog or something like that. And I also want to maybe even have a home page that looks something like this, but just focuses on the business blog. So let's go ahead and create, actually here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down to this index.markdown. That's this page we have right here. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that into blog-business. And I'll just go ahead, and that's called index.markdown. And I'll just go ahead and leave that title as home, layout as home. But I'll do as well is type title, :space, business blog. And save that. There's business blog here. So the about page, and now we have the business blog. Now I'm about to show you my way that I am going to create this business blog page. There are many ways to go about doing this. This is just one of them. And to be honest with you, it's probably the fast and cheap method versus the advanced programming method, but it's going to have to do for me for right now. So what I'm going to do is go to the index.markdown file that's under blog-business. And I'm going to change the layout from home to home-business. I'm also going to put a category in here and use business as well. Remember, this is going to be a filter that we use for our blogs. And if I come up here to that blog, remember, category is business. Oop, category. And so this should say category business in the blog, and our index.markdown file for the blog business folder should also say business. Now it's using this layout of home-business, but that doesn't exist. So I'm just going to save the file first of all, and you'll see there's a build warning that shows up and the page goes blank because there is no home-business file. Well, what I'm going to do is come over here to the layouts folder and select the home folder, the home file, home.html. I'm going to copy and paste that, and it will create a home copy. So I'll just rename that to home-business.html. And Jekyll will rebuild that. And let's refresh the page. And now we can see we're back in business. Now, something that isn't happening, of course, is that we're still seeing all of the posts, but at least now I have my own web page just for the business blog to modify as I want and to only display business blog posts. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjust this page, and we'll just find the area where it starts to list the posts. You can see that Jekyll uses the liquid programming language, and Jekyll processes that. So these things that are in the brackets with the % signs, that's code. And it's saying for every post in site.posts, do a different line, and then display the blog post. And so it's saying, put the date in, and then the post itself. So you can see date and post. So what I'm going to do is insert an additional line here. And I'm going to do a little bracket and a parenthesis and a dash. And I'm just going to say if post dot category equal business, I think we capitalized that, then go ahead and continue. Otherwise, don't do anything. And I'll just find the end of that for loop, which is right here. So I'll just go ahead and do another one of those. Bracket percentage dash and if. There. Okay, and I'll save the file. And let's see what happens over here on the right-hand side. Good. Now we are on the business blog page and only displaying the business blog element. If I come back to the home page, because that's a different home.html file, it's displaying both of them here. So cool, we basically have the blog set up, and that's nice. And what we might want to do at this point is just go ahead and create the technical blog. We still need to create the RSS feed, but might as well just get the other blog set up just to make sure that that works as well. So I'm just going to take this blog-business folder, copy it, and paste it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and rename that to, instead of blog-business copy, blog-tech. And one of the first things I'll do is I'll come into posts and I'll rename this post so it says my first tech blog. And I'll also come down here and say my first tech blog over in the content of the file. And I'll just call this tech instead of business. And welcome to my first tech blog. Okay, so that way we'll know when we're doing it right here. We also see over here on the right-hand side, it says about, and then there's business blog and business blog. Well, if we come over here to the index.markdown, we just need to change the title to tech blog and save that. And now you can see it rebuilt to say tech blog. We also want to change the category to tech and save that. And make sure our blog post, it does say tech as well. All right, cool. And remember our layout says home-business. That's going to now be home-tech. And we'll expect after I save that this page will, actually I'll go into the tech blog. We'll expect this page to kind of go away. So let's save that. Whoops. Save the file. There, the page is missing because we don't have one. We'll come back up here to layouts, and I'll just copy and paste this home-business and change that file from home-business copy to home-tech. And in the code where it says if post.category business, we'll just say if post.category equal tech. There. We'll save that, and we'll refresh the page over here on the browser. And there, now we see my first tech blog. If I come to the business blog, it says my first business blog, tech blog. And if I come to the home page, I see all of the blog items. Again, I can actually fix the home page to have something completely different. I don't need to list all the blog items here, but this gives you a sense for how you can set up those two unique blogs. Now I mentioned that we need to set up the RSS feed, but you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Bill, there's an RSS feed right here, and if I click on it, there's that feed of all the blogs. And if we go to the business blog, look, there's one listed here. Well, unfortunately, if I click on this, you'll see, if I just search for the word tech, there's that my first tech blog. I'm not actually able to, because this is a Jekyll plugin that doesn't have all the features that I need, I'm not able to use that plugin without modifying the code or maybe even suggesting that they make changes for me. So I am going to have to create my very own link. Now, this subscribe via RSS link is only showing up because, for example, I'm on the business blog, and if I go to home-business, you can see it's just has some code here to use the Jekyll plugin to create a feed file that's getting linked to. So that's really all that's happening right now. Before we start working on this RSS feed, I want to point out this website that I'm at here. I'll put this in the description. But basically it describes how you form an RSS Atom feed. Now, basically what a feed is it's an XML file. If you're not familiar with XML, it's pretty straightforward. There's these things called tags that get created. Here's a title tag and the end of a title tag. It always starts with the tag and then the end, and then there's some sort of content inside of it. So think of it almost like a text-based database where you're defining something. And so there's sort of a one-to-many relationship here. You have the feed, okay, but then inside that feed is the title of the feed, okay, and then every blog post gets listed here. So if you have 5 blog posts, then there'd be 5 what we call entries. Now, if you're wanting to kind of get familiar with what feeds look like, here's an example. Here's a list of all the New York Times blog feeds. Each one of these has this content here, and then as you drill down into them and you want to see the posts, it'll have multiple entries here. So BBC has their list as well. Okay, so here's some global and UK news feeds. Here are the popular news feeds. And so your site can have multiple feeds in it, just like these major brands. So what we're going to do is essentially create this, but in a way that Jekyll can understand it and GitHub Pages can understand it. What this is here, the sample feed, essentially is made up of all of these various elements. Do note that there's required feed elements, recommended feed elements, and optional feed elements. So the requireds, you want to get those filled in. Optional, or recommended rather, the recommended ones you usually want to do because that means that a lot of RSS feed readers use it. And then the optional ones mean that they're probably less important, but you can still use them. So you can see here, for example, there's an icon for the blog feed or a logo for the blog feed. So you can decide how much of this you want to use. I'm going to use the basics of this sample feed. I think I might have added a few more of the optional ones, but at any rate, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to Visual Studio Code and go to a terminal window and type our bundle exec Jekyll serve -- live reload and do a command click on the URL. So remember, we have this RSS feed here, but this is showing business and technical. And I'm going to close this tab. And then if I come back and I go to business blog and I go to subscribe via RSS, it's just going to that same exact RSS feed that the home page is going to. So I want to go ahead and create my own. So I'm going to go to blog-business over here. Oh, I'm sorry, going to layouts, home-business.html. And you can see down here at the bottom, it says class RSS subscribe, and it says /feed.xml. That's this text right here. So I'm just going to go /blog-business and save that. And now when I click on this via RSS link, you can see it can't find anything. That's because we didn't create a file yet. So I'll go ahead and head over here to blog-business and create a new file, and I'm just going to call that feed.xml. Cool. So now that we have the feed set up, we need to populate it. So at least now I can go over here and click on this via RSS. You can see the XML file does not appear to have information associated with it. So here's the thing. We're going to fill in the feed, but if I were to have copied and pasted that text from the website that I just showed you, it just has default text. So we need to fill in information related to our blog. And we don't want to have to retype everything every single time. So we're going to use what's called the liquid programming language. This is something Jekyll and GitHub Pages supports. It was created by Shopify, I think. And the way to let the file know, let Jekyll know that you're going to be writing code is to write 3 dashes at the top of the page and another 3 dashes. Okay, and if I save that, once I've done that, Jekyll knows to build this, and it could potentially have code in it. Now, if for some reason this doesn't work for you, just come in here and type layout:null, and that does the same exact thing. But I don't think you're going to need that, so I'll just go ahead and save. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is put that XML text at the top of the page. This is just informing the file, the feed, what type of XML this is. And so that has really not a lot to do with our feed. And so now we're just going to come over here and type in feed, XML namespace, and we're going to say that we're going to use Atom. And just to keep things on track, I'm just going to do /feed down here at the bottom. And we're going to put our code in between this link. Okay, so the first thing that the feed wants to know is what is the reference, the href to this site. And so I'm just going to stretch this out for a moment so you can see what I've pasted in here. So this is liquid code, and the liquid is just saying put in the site URL and the site base URL, and then prepend that with /blogbusiness/feed.xml. Now, how do I know what the site URL and site base URL are? Well, what I can do is come over here to the config.yml file, and there's the site.url and the site.base URL. It just doesn't say site dot, but it's coming from this config.yaml file. Now, I probably could actually create a variable called blog business, so I don't even have to type that again. But for the time being, I'm just going to leave that as is. Now, that's a link to the XML file, but you'll usually want to put an alternative link in as well. And by the way, I'm just going to style this by putting a little space in here. This alternative link is just going to say, hey, rather than go to feed.xml, here is the HTML page that hosts the blog. And that's why it says text HTML here. And this is the blog file itself, the RSS file itself, and it says atom.xml. Okay, so I'll just press enter, and I'm going to bring this back down again. Now I'm going to press save, and watch what happens when I refresh this page. You can see now that it's automatically filling in information relating to this feed. So this is all the stuff I typed. So here it says site.url, site.base URL, but here in the href, it's typing out the whole URL for the site. So that's cool. Let's continue on. One of the things that you'll want to do is let the, this is for the blog feed, remember, not for the post. What we're going to do is say, here is when the feed has been updated. So it says site.time, and then it calculates the XML, I shouldn't say calculates, we're displaying the date format in what's called an XML schema. So site.time and then date _to _XML schema. I'll save that and refresh, and you can see that's what that date looks like right here. Let's continue on. Now the next thing that your blog needs is an ID. Since you could use a code here, like a number, like a GUID or some other kind of standardized number. However, our blog site has a unique URL to it, so we can just call it the same thing that we do up here for the feed. So again, I'll just save this and refresh, and you can see there's the ID. It just says localhost blah 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 feed.xml. Okay, cool. Now we're going to put in the title for our blog. I'm sorry, for our feed. Now keep in mind, this is just the feed. And so it says site.title. So if I come to config.yaml, it's using this field right here. It's typing Cambermast. Okay, so, and what I did is I did space business blog. So the title for this blog feed is Cambermast Business Blog. And I'll go ahead and save this and refresh. And you can see there's Cambermast Business Blog. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is put in a subtitle. So I'll paste that text in. Now, let's take a look at the subtitle. That says site.description. And if I come here to config.yaml again, here's the description. Cambermast specializes in blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's putting that text in. Now, if I happen to have any HTML formatting in there, I don't want it to display. So I'm using the strip_HTML. And also if there's any white space, any spaces before or after, I'm just stripping those out. And so I'll save that and refresh. And there you can see there's the subtitle. And I'll just go ahead and create a new line. Next, we're going to do the author. And the author one's a kind of unique one. So I'll paste the author in. And you can see with the author, it's saying if there's a site author, then display the author, else display the site title. So if I come back here to the config.yaml file, here's the site title, that's the alternate text. But if there's a site author, okay, then put my text in there. And remember, this is a field that the Minima theme uses, but it's never displayed in the config.yaml. I actually think this might be a Jekyll field rather than a Minima field. But anyway, by default, it did not come with the config.yaml. So I added that later. So I want it to say Bill Raymond. Why wouldn't I have it say Bill Raymond? Well, maybe this is a site where you have multiple authors. So you just want it to say the author for the feed is the company name or the website name. But if it's just you writing most all of the blog posts and all that, then you can just use your name. And that's what I'm doing. So if the author's filled out, display it. Else, display the company name. It's basically what that's saying. I'll save this, refresh, and there's the author. Cool. Next, we're going to work on the posts. So this has all been just information about the feed itself. Now what I want to do is focus on the posts. And I'm going to expand this for a moment right after I paste in a little bit of other text. Okay, so let me expand this. This is some code, and it's all a for loop and an if loop and an if statement. So this is saying for every post in site.posts, display something, but limited only to 20 posts in the RSS feed. And by the way, if the post category is business, I only want you to display it then. If it's not, don't display it. So what's this limit 20 here all about? Well, the thing is that you have a website and it could have just 5 posts in it. That's fine. But what if you have 500 or 800 posts? No blog feed reader is going to want to read every single one of those. And usually what they do is they try to keep it limited to just a small amount. So that's what that's all about. So we're limiting this to just displaying 20. I think 30 is maybe the max that most websites use. Some go up to 50. But anyway, I recommend that you just kind of focus on keeping a minimum down here. And if you need to change it, you can always change it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, and by the way, I think my endif and my end4 are mixed up there. Yeah, so there's our for loop and our if loop. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. So now I'm going to put a blog post entry tag in here. So I'll just type in entry, and then I'll just do /entry. Save that. Okay, and now I'm just going to go title and paste that in. Okay, so this is going to now do the post.title. Let's take a look at our website again. If I go back, here's my first blog post. This is the title, okay? This is the title. Oops, this is the, you get the idea. My first blog post is the title. Okay, so it's going to go through and find every blog post that's of the category of business and display that. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to need is an ID. So we'll go ahead and post the ID in. Once again, it needs to be unique, but since each of our posts and the URL are unique, we're all good with that. So just go ahead and paste that. And we'll go into our RSS feed to see how it's looking here. Okay, so here's the entry, my first blog, and there's the unique identifier. And then we need to put in the actual link, so the link that any RSS feed reader will use, which is basically the same thing as the ID. So paste that in, and you can see I'm just using that liquid to put in the same thing, site URL, base URL, and so on. I'll just go ahead and select this text here, copy it, and paste it. This is kind of what you're going to want to do as throughout. Yep, it went to the blog post, so we're good there. As you're doing this, you'll want to verify that the text you're putting in here actually does work. Okay, so let's just kind of get to the end of this line. I'm going to paste another line. And this is post updated. So here's the post date. Let me come back. Here's the post date. Okay, and so it's saying take the post date and then also use that XML schema again. So go back to my feed. Press enter. I'm saving my work again. And we'll reload, and we can see that's when it was updated. And then finally, it wants to know a summary. Now again, this is one of those, I think it's recommended or optional, but this is the one that I decided to put in. This is an excerpt of the post. So if I take a look at this post here, it says my first business blog, that's the title, and then it shows this text. Now anything in Jekyll that is the first line of text before a paragraph mark, or the first text before a paragraph mark, that's the excerpt. And you can define the excerpt in different ways. You'll have to look that up on Jekyll for more details. But essentially, this welcome to my first blog, business blog, that is the summary text for my feed, and it's what Jekyll calls the excerpt. So what I'm saying here is, if there's an excerpt, then go ahead and use that, strip it of any HTML, and also remove any leading and any leading text, any leading spaces, and any space at the end. And then we just do end if. So I'll go ahead and save this. And you can see there's that summary now. Welcome to my first blog, business blog. All right, and that's kind of it. That is how we build a feed. So what we're going to do now is just kind of verify that this works. So I'm going to come over here to my business posts, and just for time's sake, I'm going to copy and paste this post here, and I'm just going to call this my, I'll rename it. I'm going to call this my second biz blog. There we go. And I'm going to call this the second. I'm going to just do a different time. And I'm going to say this is my second business blog. Okay, cool. So you can see on the right-hand side, the page for business blog. I clicked on business blog at the top. And now the page is showing my second business blog. There's a text. That's cool. And now we're going to go to the RSS feed and make sure that displays. So again, here is the feed itself, okay? Here's all the details relating to the blog, to the feed, and then here are the entries for it. And you can see here's one entry and the second entry. So the first entry says my second business blog, and the next entry rather, says my first business blog. Now what it's doing is it's ordering them in the same order that they display on this page. It's basically saying display the most recent first, and that's a common thing to do, so you probably don't want to change that. Now what I have up on the left side of the screen is a feed reader, and it's called Vienna. It's a free open source product. I believe it's open source, and this allows you to read feeds. You can see it actually came with some built in. So here's, for example, is BBC World News, and it's displaying the top posts of the day. Now what I'm going to do is come over here to my blog and read the feed. So far I've read it and it looks fine, but I want to make sure a feed reader can actually read it. That's kind of the proof is in the pudding. So I'm going to copy this URL here at the top, and I'm going to choose new subscription, and I'm going to paste this in and subscribe. And there I can see Canberra Mass business blog, and there's my first business blog and my second business blog. And if I click on this, I'm just waiting for it. There we go. There it says, there's the blog details, right? So welcome to my first business blog, and here's the second one. So great. It looks like everything is truly set up for working with feed readers now. Now at this point, I could just update my blog-tech to include the feed.xml and all that. But I think what's important first to do is make sure that all of this works on GitHub. Because so far what we've done is created an RSS feed on our local computer. So we want to make sure that it gets built properly on GitHub. So I'm going to come over here and do a command in Visual Studio Code, do Command-Shift-P, and I'm going to commit my code and say, actually, before I do that, sorry, I'm a little aggressive about this with myself. I like to close down any files just to make sure there's nothing that wasn't saved. Okay, now I'm better. So I'll do Control-Shift-P, commit, and I'm going to say added business blog feed. Now, of course, all of our code is in this multi-blog branch here. So I need to move it to the master branch. And this is something I'm going to point out that I'm not a big fan of with using Jekyll and GitHub. I don't know of a way to actually test a branch in GitHub pages without first putting it back into master. If someone knows how to do that, leave a comment in the description. I don't know that there's a way. Anyway, I'm going to come over to the master, and of course master doesn't have all those changes yet, so I'm going to do a Control-Shift-P, and I'm going to merge the branch multi-blog into the master. You can see that home-business and home-tech just showed up, and we can also see that feed.xml we just created. Now I'm going to do a Control-Shift-P again and sync that up to GitHub. Okay, so the good news is I posted from my local computer up to GitHub, I synchronized, and I'm at github.io with my repo name, and you can see all the posts that I created are here. And if I view the RSS feed at the home page, I can search for tech and see that there's tech blogs, and I can search for business, and I can see that there's business blogs. Okay, so that's what we'd expect because that's the home page. Now, if I come to tech blog, I just want to make sure that that is only just displaying the tech blog. We didn't set up the RSS yet for this one, but this looks good. That page looks good. And here's business blog. And I can see up, yep, it's only displaying those two business blog items. And if I view the RSS, that looks good. And notice here, it's saying github.io instead of the local computer on each one of these items where there's a link. That's good news. And what I want to do is just copy this feed. And once again, I'm going to go into Vienna. I'll just delete this other one that I put in there and add a new subscription and paste in my github.io for blog business and subscribe to that just to make sure that there's no issues here. There's my first and second business blog. And that's looking good. So cool. One of the things I like to do, especially when I'm using a lot of code like I just did with Liquid, I just want to make sure that what I built on my local computer also builds properly when I'm using GitHub itself. So that's what I mean by that is I'm going to create a new blog and make sure that it works. So I'm going to go to Posts here in blog-business. I'm going to create a new file. And I'll just paste a file in here. Let's just, for sake of moving this along, put that from the clipboard. And I'll just copy and paste another bit of this. So this is a new blog post called My Third Post, My Third Biz Post. And I have the title, My Third Blog, and My Third Business Blog. Okay, cool. So I'll just commit that file. And then I'll go up here to my repo and go back into that URL again. And what I'm going to do is refresh, and I might have to refresh a few times while the site's getting rebuilt, and hopefully my third business blog will show up here. Okay, after I refreshed, I see my third business post. That looks good. And if I come over here to the tech blog, I don't want to see it. I don't. If I come to the business blog, I do see it. And just keep in mind, you might need to refresh your browser. Make sure you refresh if you don't see something. So I'm going to go here. There's my third business blog. Cool. And then finally, I'll go to the RSS feed, and you can see here's 1 entry, 2 entries, 3 entries. Again, if you don't see those, refresh your browser. Okay, I am not going to go and do the secondary blog, but I'm going to quickly walk you through the steps that you need to just to make sure that you're on the same page. So in Visual Studio Code, what you're going to do is create a new branch, and you're going to say add tech blog feed, okay? And because we already created the tech blog, and you'll want to maybe copy this feed from the business into tech. And when you have that feed copied, make sure you search and replace all the text that makes this feed unique just for your secondary blog. And then also go to your layouts and modify the layout page to point to the new feed. Make sure you then make sure you commit all the files, merge them with master, test it on your website, and then also create a brand new post on GitHub just to make sure that everything runs up on GitHub and is not relying on anything occurring locally. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more like this, please like, comment, and click the bell to support my channel.